But first, a reminder that FanDuel is the #1 sportsbook in the world, and with March Madness here, FanDuel is giving you a chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can bet $200 in bonus bets when their first $5 bet wins. That is $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories. You can even pick who's going to cut down the nets. Just visit FanDuel.com/UCSS and get in on all the college hoops action all tournament long. Tonight, the Cavs are in Phoenix looking to snap a 3-game skid. Jason, what does Cleveland have to do tonight to get off the slide?
Guard, defend, get back to some defensive principles that I think have slipped a little bit, be aggressive inside, and if the shots fall, they fall. If they don't, they don't. You can't control that. We talked about that on the show yesterday. Once it leaves your hand, there's nothing you can do about it, but it's all the other stuff. It's the little stuff. They've just been pushed around at times early on this road trip. Particularly on the defensive end, start running guys off the three-point line a little bit better than they have, and just stay focused. They 43-point quarters against Sacramento. That can't happen. Phoenix is kind of a mess from ownership all the way down, and I would expect them to win after a day off, after a day of rest. I would expect them to come back and win this one.
Yeah, I absolutely expect them. If they lose this one, it's not going to be alarm bells, but I'm going to be a little more concerned than I am right now. I'm not currently overly concerned by it. You never want to lose 3 games in a row.
No.
But, if you look at the circumstances, start of a West Coast trip, they lost a hard-fought game at home before that trip to Orlando, who was a desperate team. So I'm not overly concerned, but they've done this once before this year. They went through a stretch where you were scratching your head saying, where's the team that makes 8 passes before the shot?
Well, most teams.
Where's the team? Yep, they go through multiple. It's 82 games.
Yeah.
So I'm not pushing any alarm buttons or ringing any bells, but I'll be a little bit more concerned if they lose, because you're right, Phoenix is a mess. They're not playing for anything, and so I expect them to go into Phoenix and win handily. The one thing that they've done on both of their 2 losses to start this trip was they came out of the gate smoking hot, red hot, and they finished both games limping across the finish line. I don't know what that's about. That could be fatigue. That could be the body's reaction to flying west. People underestimate what that actually does to you. It takes a lot out of you. And so now they've had a day to rest, and hopefully they put this behind them and finish, because both of their first 2 losses on this trip, they looked awful in the fourth quarters.
Since I was off 2 days, in my regular 2 days, and they were taking L's ever since they took an L at home and they kept taking L's on this road. Look, man, this is the problem when you shoot threes. And trust me, this is not a critique on the league and how people shoot too many threes. Listen to what I'm saying. The problem, you can shoot all your threes you want, but one thing that you cannot let happen is when you miss those threes, to let that trickle down to the rest of your game. You cannot miss threes and then say, okay, well, we're not going to run you off the line. You can't miss threes and then Mobley is killing people inside, and then for some reason you just don't go back to him. I don't think that the Cavs realize that they have 7-footers in there that can play. I've always said, when you have Evan Mobley and Jared Allen working high-low, I haven't seen that in a while. Let the bigs create inside. Another thing, when the threes aren't falling, there's 1, 2, 3, 5 less passes. Where's the side-to-side motion? It's let me pull up and get a pick and roll, high pick and roll, and pull up. Listen, that's cute when it's falling, but I reiterate, during the playoffs, when they're going to let them play, and one thing that Kenny needs to be telling the Cavs, hey, look, y'all better stop talking to these referees and get back and play physical, because that's what they're going to let you do. They're going to let them beat you. They're going to let you hang on their arms. And you put this on Mobley and Allen. You say, listen, you are the bigs. Our tone is set with you. If you got to give somebody an elbow, cool. I got the Draymond Green rule. Hey, listen, if they got to get you to 5 or 6 flagrants during the period before you get thrown out of the game for the next game, that's cool. But the effort needs to be there. The intensity needs to be there. And look, I like the fact that they're taking these L's right now. I love it because it shows listen, you're not unbeatable. Like, you can come out here and get beat by regular teams if we stop doing 1 to 2 to 3 of these things that we've been doing great.
Yeah, that's a good point.
They got to get back to rebounding.
Yep.
Yeah.
And sort of creating a identity inside. And, you know, they've gone away from Jarrett at times in closing lineups, which is fine. But the guys on the floor have to be a little bit more physical inside. And that's sort of alluded back to the point I was making earlier. They're getting pushed around a little bit too much on the defensive end. They got to get back to rebounding. And that's Evan, that's Jarrett, that's all of them. That's DeAndre, that's all of them.
You mentioned the physical play, and they're going to need to be more physical in the playoffs. Can they be? Is that in their DNA? Or is that something they can force themselves to do?
I think it's a legitimate concern, and I think a lot of teams realize it. We've talked about it. Mike and I have talked about it quite a few times on the Cavs podcast and here, that you can get into these guys and you can go at their neck a little bit. Sometimes they respond and sometimes they don't. But you know, I think it's going to be matchup dependent when you get to the postseason series. Some teams enjoy that style of play, and some teams don't. So it'll really depend on who they play.
That's my biggest concern in the playoffs. I think if they lose, it'll be because they get out-muscled and they weren't able to stand up to it.
Like, you can't let Zubac be Wilt Chamberlain.
No.
Zubac had like 30 and 20.
He had 20 rebounds on him.
That should never happen.
I love
roster,
I love watching it. They're like, oh,
See,
but Zubac is way too bad. I said, no.
In a first-round series, if it's Orlando's going to get into them.
Yeah.
They're going to be physical with them. Atlanta, I don't think that's not Atlanta's style.
I do not want Orlando in the first round. I don't.
I don't think Orlando can beat them.
I don't
four
either,
times.
But they can beat us up.
Yeah.
And they can take
It would
their
be a
pound of
physical
flesh.
series. I think it would probably be 5. I don't think it goes beyond
I
5.
hope so.
Just because
I
of
hope you're
Orlando's
right.
injury situation. If Orlando is healthy, we'd be having a far different conversation.
They're ready.
I need one nasty guy to appear. One. I don't know. Donovan seems to be the emotional leader, but we know.
Who is our nasty guy? I know who I would say.
Who's the guy that jacks Jared Allen up or Evan Mobley when
Unfortunately, it's a guy that won't be in the playoff rotation.
It's Tristan, but
it's
he's not on the
Tristan, and he
floor.
won't be on the floor.
Hey, Tristan, you need to ratchet your
There's
game
another
up.
guy that you guys
Who?
have missed.
Who am I missing?
Jason, you may think I'm crazy for this. Kind of think Strus is that crazy guy.
Yeah.
Not necessarily an enforcer, but he's not like
He's a kamikaze.
he's kind of crazy in a good way.
I know what you
but he's
mean,
crazy.
Mike. I know what you mean, but
big
I
enough to
mean
be-
somebody that
No.
walks that walk, lives that life.
I mean, it's
They're
Ty.
about being that
Actually
enforcer.
Ty Jerome if he was 8 inches taller.
Yeah, I
Right.
wish. Yeah,
Right.
put his heart and spirit into somebody with that body of
Yeah.
6'10" or
Yeah, Tristan gonna have to get the bigs together because it looks like the bigger teams they look at Mobley and Allen and be like, oh, we got y'all tonight, like. And unless they start off strong, the game, it just seems to wear on them a little more offensive rebounds, more putbacks, stuff like that.
I like where you're going with that. Tristan Thompson's tough man camp.
You better get it
Get
together.
Mobley and Allen
T-top.
in there
I
and
mean, that's-
just teach him the ropes.
He's been here for 2 years now. That was part of the reason why he's here in the first place.
Bring in Bill Lambier.
That was a point of emphasis last year, and when they brought him back was to try and build up Evan a little bit and get into him a little bit with some of the physicality.
Game tonight, late night once again. We'll have you recap from that game and Sunday's game against Utah right here on UCSS on Monday. Guys,